This encounter took place in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, I'm pretty new to Reddit and just joined this sub after seeing it recommended. I want to share an experience I had with you guys. First, though, I'd like to give you some background about myself. I'm 37, 36 at the time of this encounter, and have always been interested in the paranormal. I've had a couple of encounters or experiences that don't quite fit this sub, so I'll post those elsewhere. Now, I'd like to backtrack for a moment and emphasize that being interested in the paranormal does not mean I'm an outright believer. I'm certainly open to it, but more often than not, I'll enter a situation with an agnostic attitude and instantly develop one of skepticism once I start assessing and evaluating everything. That being said, I do love a good mystery and don't think for a moment that people who believe in such things are lying or stupid. We all have our reasons for believing what we do. I tried sending this in through voicemail to Monsters Among Us a while ago, but I don't think it ever got aired. Anyway, let's get on with it. I was working 1.5 jobs in 2019, and the half was as an on-call assistant private investigator, and the main one was as a security guard. We mainly did patrols for apartments and a small handful of residential contracts. This particular event took place at 19th Ave and Camelback, which, if you're from Phoenix, you know is a pretty shady part of town. The apartments I patrolled were just south of there. They were predominantly low-income tenants, half of whom were refugees from all over the globe. The complex was well known in the area for theft, violence, break-ins, drug dealing, and so on. I liked patrolling it because I felt like I was helping people who genuinely needed it, and the vast majority of them were very grateful that I was there. I got to know many of them very well, and we would often talk and shoot the breeze before I had to start making my rounds again. One of the people I talked to was a native guy who I won't name for obvious reasons. He was often on his balcony getting drunk and high. Things which we were supposed to report, but, well, as long as you weren't causing any trouble or making a lot of noise, I'm not saying anything about it, and would usually say hi to me when I arrived on post, and we'd talk for a while, then I'd start my shift. Never any real issues with the guy. He liked listening to his music, having a few beers, and having a blunt or two. Seemed like a nice guy. He had a tattoo on his chest of some Kachina dolls, though I have no idea if they play into this encounter or not. Anyway, in the summer of 2019, I was doing my rounds, and around 8:30 p.m., I hear him chanting loudly in his native language. I went to see if he was okay, as he never did this before. When I got there, he was inside, so I kept doing my patrol until I heard it again not long after. I went back to his side of the complex and saw him, his pregnant fiancée, and his son, whom I had never met before, coming down the stairs. He looked at me and said, "Hey man, follow me." As I was walking behind them, I saw what looked like a giant knife in the son's hand, but when we got to the parking lot, I could see it was just a very large feather, and his father had 2 smaller ones, maybe from a juvenile eagle. When we entered the parking lot, I saw a native woman standing there who I had kicked out earlier for being loud and yelling at a guy who was the roommate of the native tenant. I'd seen him before and knew he lived there, but didn't know he was his roommate. I don't remember what they were arguing about this time, but she had her 2 sons with her now, 10 years old and maybe a 6-month-old in a stroller. They were going back and forth with each other, and the father and son began taking the feathers and rubbing them on the children's faces while whispering in their language. The mother flipped out. "Don't you put that fucking evil on my babies, you sick fuck! Fuck you, get the fuck away from my babies," and so on. I was about to step in and tell them to stop when they stood up and said in a very guilty voice, "We aren't doing anything to hurt the baby. That's why I even brought the security guard to make sure everything is okay," to which she replied, "He doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Truer words have never been spoken." She then says, "If you guys aren't doing anything wrong, then do it on your pregnant fiancé's belly." The dad says, "Okay," and turns to his son to whisper something in his ear, and now it's the kid's turn to flip out. He yells, You're still fucking evil. I'm half Christian and I'm not doing this evil shit, etc., etc., and takes off running. The dad and his fiancée yelled at him to come back, and then he takes off after him. I'm stuck there trying to get the lady with the kids to leave, now for their own safety. And then I ran off looking for the dad and son. I didn't find them, so just assumed they left the property and therefore weren't my problem anymore. Not long after, I saw a fresh blood trail and vomit on the sidewalk, and a knife nearby it, and walked back to the native guy's balcony, where I could now see him getting bandaged up by his fiancée due to having a huge gash on his forehead. I called the cops. I hated doing that, but now it was serious. They came, I explained everything that had happened, and they knocked on his door, but there was no answer. They told me there was nothing they could do since it was a family issue, and the dad that was attacked didn't want to talk to them, which makes sense, I suppose, from their point of view. No charges were ever filed. The next day, I spoke with the manager about the incident. He told me, "Oh, you mean Mike? Not his real name? Man, I've been keeping an eye on him. He moved here after he got let out of prison for manslaughter. If any of you are familiar with the process for becoming a skinwalker, you know that one of the big steps to take in order to become one involves murder. I only saw the guy a few times afterwards, and we never spoke of the incident again, but it was always in the back of my mind whenever I saw him. For the record, I don't personally think people can turn into coyotes or wield magical powers. No disrespect intended to anyone at all. However, I do think that some people think they are capable of such things. Anyway, if someone who is more knowledgeable about these things has any ideas, I'd love to hear them, particularly about the feathers and the kachina tattoos. I knew a native guy years ago who had a specific tattoo put on him by a family member in case he ever got into prison, so he couldn't be recruited by the Warrior Society, the native prison gang. Think their version of the Aryan Brotherhood, and always wondered if they had any hand in the whole Skinwalker thing in the Southwest. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining me, and please feel free to give this video a like. It would mean a great deal to me. I'll be uploading news stories and encounters 4 days a week, so subscribe to stay tuned. I'll be keeping up to date with all of the newest stories and encounters I can find. See you soon, and remember to stay vigilant and stay safe.